Imagine the universe before the very first moment. No matter, no light, no structure. Just a featureless potential, a blank slate locked in perfect mathematical symmetry. To build a reality out of this blank slate, a boundary has to be drawn. Mathematics and logic dictate that existence requires a distinction, a separation between something and nothing. This creates an immediate logical trap. The act of drawing a boundary implies that an agent already exists to do the drawing. Reality cannot form without an observer to perceive it, but an observer cannot exist without a reality to inhabit. It is an infinite regress. Cognitive scientist Douglas Hofstadter defined this kind of circular logic as a strange loop, a system where the creation and the creator endlessly require each other to exist. The observer-dependent theory of everything approaches this paradox differently. It removes the need for an observer to draw that first distinction. Instead of relying on a conscious agent to break the perfect symmetry of the early universe, the theory points to the cold, impersonal mechanics of mathematical instability. The observer is the inevitable mechanical byproduct of how the universe physically evolved, rather than the spark that set it in motion. To understand this initial break, we look to the Standard Model. The universe's primordial field behaves much like the Higgs field. This field rests in a sombrero-shaped structure, perfectly balanced at the center peak. But zero-point noise pushes the system down the slope. Physicists call this spontaneous symmetry breaking. The universe drops into a circular valley, finding a stable state. But that valley forms a continuous ring. There is an infinite number of identical positions along that trough where the universe could settle. The initial symmetry broke purely by chance, without any conscious intervention. Yet, out of endless identical options, a specific physical reality must be locked in. The mechanism dictating which reality survives is the Kolmogorov-Arnold-Moser theorem, or the KAM filter. It outlines which dynamic structures hold together under constant pressure. Along the infinite ring of potential realities, most structural orientations are mathematically rational. Their rotation numbers can be expressed as simple fractions. When these simple, rational structures face the constant chaotic vibrations of the early universe, they encounter a process known as Poincare-Birkhoff decimation. The slightest perturbation causes rational structures to destabilize. The neat, organized pathways shatter into chaotic chains of disconnected points. These fragments dissolve entirely into a randomized noise pattern called the ergodic sea. Any universe attempting to form on a rational frequency is rapidly destroyed. To endure this dynamic pressure, a structure must possess mathematical complexity that prevents it from resonating with the chaos. It must be irrational. The early universe acts as a merciless sieve. It rapidly strips away every potential reality that is mathematically fragile, leaving only the robust. Among the irrationals, there is a specific class known as Diophantine numbers. These are uniquely equipped to resist the perturbations of the KAM filter. This chart shows the stability margins, the Hurwitz constants, of these irrational values. One specific value has a vastly wider margin than the rest. That dominant peak belongs to the golden ratio, phi. It is the worst approximable number in mathematics. The survival of phi rests on mechanical stability, not aesthetics. It represents the final geometric configuration to break under the pressure of continuous chaotic noise. The universe's architecture emerged through a passive process of elimination. Reality crystallized around the golden ratio because every other configuration lacked the mathematical stamina. This brings us to the anti-circularity principle. Once the golden ratio survives the chaos and locks into place, its precise mathematical parameters create a stable orientation. That orientation provides the exact conditions for an observation operator to function. The capacity to perceive the universe is constructed entirely from the surviving debris. We can measure the echoes of this exact filtering mechanism in real-world physics experiments today. When physicists force cobalt niobiate crystals into a quantum-critical state, the emergent particles form bound pairs. The mass ratio between the first two states exactly matches the golden ratio. Similarly, the Hardy probability, the maximum limit for certain non-local quantum entanglement measurements, calculates out precisely to the golden ratio to the -5th power. These are the measurable physical signatures of the same dynamical filter that stabilized the early universe. This framework redefines the origin point as a primordial distinction event, the moment the universe established its own internal boundaries. It marks the exact threshold where a wave of structural order successfully separated marked space from unmarked space entirely on its own. The logic closes on itself. A creator was never required to draw the first boundary, because math and chaos do the drawing automatically. Human consciousness and the very ability to observe the cosmos is the ultimate byproduct of the golden ratio outlasting the chaos of the first spark.